Today, we're going to be checking out a Cyclops from Dunable Guitars. So first off, big shout out to Mass Distro and Dunable for sending this over. I have been following Dunable a long time on Instagram. For anyone not initiated, they make some really sick looking guitars. They're based out of LA. They make a bunch of stuff like I would best describe them as kind of like vintage retro aesthetics, but also modern at the same time. That really does seem to be something they're going for because they want to aim towards modern metal players, but with vintage vibes, with classic aesthetics in mind, and I think that's pretty cool. They sent over this Cyclops, as you can see, definitely nails what I'm talking about. This cool kind of pointy double cut, but then it's also got a lot of old school on it, especially with that tailpiece, the pick guard, those cool, little knobs that look like almost like, Rangemaster treble booster knobs, maybe as a nod to Tony Iommi, I don't know, but I like it for that reason. And as much as this thing does kind of look old school, it does have a lot of modern features on it. Like it has a 25.5-inch scale length. So, a little bit longer of a scale length. That's personally my favorite scale length for 6-string guitars. Allows you to, drop tune them a little bit more without having to deal with, intonation issues or using super thick strings. I also really like the radius on this. It's not super rounded like you get off like of an old Gibson or something like that. It's very flat and modern. The pickups are another thing on these that are very much kind of like a modern vintage. They're not super high modern output, but they're also not like a PAF and super low output either. They're kind of more medium output. I'm personally more of a fan of like super hot pickups, but these definitely do the job. They sound very good. I really like the cleans on both the bridge and the neck. I feel like the neck pickups super kind of rounded off, really good for kind of, lead passages as well as cleans. And because it's not super hot, the bridge pickup's pretty bright, so it's still pretty cutting, even though it's not like driving the front of your amp super hard. The frets are nickel, they're jumbo. They're not, extra jumbo like you get on a lot of modern guitars, but they're also not as like small as something you would get on like a Les Paul or something like that, or like an older Fender. And I think that's pretty cool. It's again kind of like meeting in the middle, and it feels pretty good. And another way they do this on this guitar as well is the neck profile. It's a C profile, and it's more of a medium C is how they describe it. So it's definitely not as thick as, again, like something like a Les Paul, but it's not as thin as like a modern shredder. It's kind of a bridge in between, and with somebody with big hands, it just felt great to play. Body and neck are mahogany, and the fretboard is ebony, so pretty classic pairings of woods there. It's decently heavy. It's not like 10, 11 pounds, but it's not super light either. I think it's around 7-ish, 8-ish pounds. It's decently chunky, but it won't kill your back on stage. I just think the thing looks rad. Like I unboxed it, took it out of the gig bag, it comes in, and I was just like, whoa, this thing looks super cool. It was basically in tune out of the box. It came set up pretty well. All I had to do was, reset it up in D, which barely took any time at all. And it just immediately felt good to play. It sounded great. And I immediately started writing some riffs on it. The only couple of things I noticed was on one of the horns, there was a tiny little finish imperfection, like a little white dot, probably from the binding on the neck. It probably was a little flake before it got clear coated. Just cool, it happens. And really the only other thing was that cool kind of vintage looking tailpiece that's on it. If you buy one of these, you might want to put like a piece of tape or a little bit of foam on there. I ended up eventually just putting a little piece of foam in there, because if you do smack that, you can get a little bit of noise out of the guitar because it does vibrate the strings. But honestly, the thing plays and sounds great. So those are my nitpicking complaints with it, if I could even call them complaints. But that's enough talking about it. Let's hear some cool, spooky in-mix music, and then we're gonna hear it out of a mix, and I'll play around with the pickups and show off the guitar a bit. We're gonna have this going into my Friedman Brown Eye 50 into for the intro, it's gonna be going into the clean channel, and then all the distorted tones are gonna be going into the high gain Brown Eye channel. and it'll be the same out of mix. The amp's going into my 2 Notes Captor X with a IR blend of my DV77 VM1265 speakers. Let's check it out. So definitely a cool guitar. It plays as good as it looks. I'm very impressed for my first Dunable guitar, and like I don't know if I mentioned already, but these are made in South Korea. Some of my favorite guitars ever have been made in South Korea. All of my LTDs, every Schecter I've ever owned has been made in South Korea, and they've all been great instruments. And again, this was no exception. Even though I was going into the high gain channel, like I said, these were more medium output pickups, so they were getting kind of like kind of a vintage hot vibe. Like you could hear like it was gained up, but it wasn't super high gain. I was getting almost like more Ghost or Black Sabbath kind of feels out of it than I was like super high gain or like hair metal from the 80s. Overall, I think the thing's killer, and I don't think Dunable get enough attention. Like I said, I've been following them on Instagram for a long time. I would definitely love to try some more from them, especially one of those R2s. Those look so killer. Those are so cool. I would love to get my hands on one of those and try out one of those proper. But anyway, I'm gonna have a link down below so you can try out or maybe pick up one of these for yourself. And thanks for watching, guys. Stay metal.